I forgot how nice it was, actually. I'm Joe. I'm the chef at Naughty Piglets restaurant in Brixton. I'm here today cooking a raw beef dish with a few interesting bits and bobs. We've got coffee mayonnaise, we've got some fresh sorrel, we're doing some deep fried spring greens. And that's it, it's a simple dish. Okay, so we're going to start with the mayonnaise. So we've got these lovely, actually using these lovely Clarence Court eggs. Crack the egg, look at the beautiful yolk. I'm going to grab the yolk out. I just separate them with my hands, which is quite, there you go, easy, so there's no white. There we go, it's perfect. And fingers crossed, not going to split the mayonnaise, because that's something that can happen. So we're going to put all the ingredients we need to make this in at once. So we've got some freeze-dried coffee, which makes, that's just instant coffee, but that makes it sound really swanky. White balsamic vinegar. Good splash of that. English mustard. Sriracha for a bit of heat. Works really well with the raw beef, but this is delicious with or without it. You've got a little bit of heat coming from the mustard as well. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt. So we're going to whisk all that. And then drizzle in the oil, which is going to make the mayonnaise. So what we do in the restaurant is put something like a cloth or something down. And you just slowly drizzle the mayonnaise in, probably about that much oil. If it does split, a little bit of water could bring it back. Equally, another egg yolk and start the whole process again. But ideally, we're not gonna let it split. This is actually quite a stable one because you've got loads of bits and bobs in there. That's kind of there, to be honest. Might take a little splash of water. Here we go. So let's have a little taste. Nailed it. So it's come together really nicely. You've got a nice thick, sort of wobbly mayonnaise there. And that's just with one egg yolk. So you're looking at about one egg yolk, 200, 250 oil. A bit more of that. That's good. So mayonnaise is done, so we're now going to move on to the garnishes. So we've got these beautiful spring greens. So this is what they use in a Chinese restaurant to do crispy seaweed. So essentially that's what we're going to make here. So it's not real seaweed, it is spring greens. So take out the sort of tough fibrous core. Do that with all of them. Probably we'll do one more and that should be enough. So I'm going to roll this up, kind of like a big cigar. And just with this beautiful sharp knife, there you go. So I'm just going to put that aside. Grab a bowl. So that's going to deep fry. It's going to go really, really, really crispy and has so much flavour in. We're going to do pretty much the same with the shallots. We're going to do them into little rondelles. And then these, again, it was going to fry them really slowly to take out all the moisture. They go really, really dark and crispy, and they just make that sort of like, almost like you get on a beef burger, you know, like the crispy onions on top. So we're not going to do a few of them, because this is just like, there you go, that's enough of those. So we just separate them out. So you're going to have the beef on the bottom, you're going to have the mayonnaise in between. It's kind of like a little bit of a beef burger, actually, when I think about it. And then you just finish it with crispy shallots, crispy spring greens. And then just to sort of cut through it all, we're gonna add a little bit of sorrel, which you don't see very often, but it's beautiful. It's really lemony. And then again, this is why you need a sharp knife. We're just gonna chiffonade it. The role of the sorrel is just to add a bit of freshness and acidity. So if you couldn't get sorrel, big squeeze of lemon in the beef. We're gonna do that anyway, but we'll try this later and you'll see it's just to add a little bit of freshness. Okay, so that's our knife work done. So we've got those 3 things there. Okay, so now we're ready to deep fry. So we've got pan of oil here, really, really hot, a little bit dangerous. So we're gonna just test it with just a little strand. And that's what you want, it's just bubbling. So now we're good. And we've got our setup ready. So we've got another pan with a little sort of sieve. I'm gonna be quite quick. So this is gonna take 30 seconds in really hot oil. It will bubble up a little bit, so we've got to be a bit careful. There you go, in it goes. And the bubbling is the moisture. And we're trying to get rid of the moisture, which is going to make it really crispy. So you just want to keep watching it until the moisture goes pretty much. And that's going to let us know that we've got very crispy seaweed. That's pretty much good to go. No, a little bit longer, a little bit longer. Just risk burning my fingers. And then we're going to put the shallots ready and waiting in this pan next door. Okay, that's kind of ready. So we're going to pour the oil straight on top of the shallots. I'm going to pop that back on the heat. And then we're going to just spread these out on a little bit of kitchen towel to dry out. There you go. So this is pretty much what you get in a Chinese restaurant when you order the crispy seaweed. A little bit of salt. Teeny bit of sugar. And that's ready to go. Meanwhile, I've turned this off actually, and this is just gonna kind of like sit there in that hot oil for about 10 minutes. Sort of drying out. So we've got a lovely piece of beef fillet here. Really lovely marbling. And we're just gonna eat it raw essentially. We're gonna season it with some salt, some lemon juice, black pepper, and a bit of olive oil. Essentially, we're just doing a steak tartare. So we're gonna take about that much. That's gonna be like 100 grams there. And then we're just gonna chop it up. Now, lots of restaurants, when you're doing a steak tartare, I remember when I was working in France for a little bit, they minced it, but we're just gonna chop it by hand. Gives it a really nice texture. Quite big pieces actually. This cut of beef is just wonderful, I think. It's the most expensive cut on the animal because obviously you've got a huge cow weighing a few hundred kilograms, and you're going to get like probably about a couple of kilograms of beef fillet off that whole animal. So it comes at quite a price. The thing about the fillet, this is what people say is really tender, not as much flavor as the other cuts. Sort of what you gain in tenderness, you lose in flavor. Like rump's good, or like hanger steak or bavette. One little trick for the tougher cuts is if you freeze them and defrost them, tend to tenderize, because as they defrost, they break down all the sort of cell structure in the walls. Just going to season that with some sea salt, a little bit of oil, not too much because we've got the mayonnaise, lots of black pepper, a little squeeze of lemon juice, which again kind of cooks the beef a little bit, almost like a ceviche, the acidity from the lemon. So we do this right at the last minute. If you do it early on, you get like the beef actually goes grey because it starts to cook. We're gonna plate it up in a minute actually, yeah. So they've been there for about sort of 10 minutes now, really nice and low, and they've just gone golden and crispy. So just like the spring greens, into the sieve. And then we put them there. And then when you're doing deep frying stuff, really important to season it straight away. Just spread that out. So these are like the crispy shallots you get on a hot dog or a sort of beef burger, something like that. Cool, so we're just gonna leave those to go cold. and we're ready to plate the whole dish. Okay, so we've got everything ready to go now. We've got the beef. You can see it's just slightly cured a little bit with the lemon juice. If you look, that's how it was before. It's just sort of started to slowly cook from the acidity. So it's just putting it together now. I'm gonna grab a bowl. I'm gonna start with a little dollop of mayonnaise on the bottom. And I'm just going to build everything up next to it, really. So, I mean, in the restaurant, we'd put this in a fancy ring and make it look very, very posh, but I'm just going to build that up just next to the mayonnaise. And this is the dish where it's all about everything coming together. So everything's quite nice on its own, but everything just complements each other really nicely. So we've got the raw beef there. Next, we're going to just drape a little bit of the sorrel. And then we've got beautiful caramelized shallots to give it some crunch, a bit of sweetness. And we just finish with this deep fried spring greens. And there you go. So there you go, we've got our raw beef, coffee, sorrel, crispy shallots. Hope you like it. Now let's give this little bad boy a try. So it's about getting a little bit of everything all together. Good.